So this is a virtual lecture series hosted by myself. Really great to be with you here tonight. And again, if you have any questions, please email regina@princetonih.com. But the main objective for this session is to understand some of the neuroscience and neurobiology behind stress and anxiety, how stress hormones are involved, especially the limbic and endocrine system, and how cannabis and other plants and functional medicine can help reduce anxiety. So let's start off by just looking at the definition of anxiety, which is a pretty common thing. Anxiety is an emotion that's characterized by an inner state of unease. And most often, this feeling is connected to an anticipation of future events. From a biological perspective, what's biochemically going on is it's a stress response to a perceived danger or threat in the future. And that's something I also want to point out here, that this stress can be a response to something immediate, or it could be something in response to anticipated. So this is a topic and an idea that we are gonna come back to and emphasize throughout this session. And this is from the APA, the definition. So let's take a look at some stats here. So anxiety disorders, they're the most common mental illness in the US, and they affect 40 million adults ranging from age 18 and older. And that's 18.1% of the population every year. I got this stat from Anxiety and Depression Association of America. And what's interesting about this is this only the people that have actually reported anxiety. So this is a pretty large number. Many different anxiety disorders. These are just a few: general anxiety disorder, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. And again, these are just to name a few. Some of us might experience these on a daily basis, symptoms from these. And I just quickly want to check if anyone is waiting. Yep, we do have some people waiting. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth here. Welcome. Hi, welcome if you just joined. Hello, I am muting everyone until the end. Welcome. I will be unmuting everyone and fielding questions. We just got started a couple minutes ago. All this content will be emailed to you with sources. And my name is Regina Schoenberger. For those that have not met me before, I'm the community educator at PIH. So going back to anxiety and how it's very prevalent here in the US, affecting 40 million adults. And these are just the people that report these anxiety disorders. So what causes chronic anxiety? How does this become to the point where it affects our quality everyday life? So there's a lot of common causes: environment, trauma, genetics, hormone imbalances, which is something I suffer from greatly, diet, lifestyle, even side effects from certain pharmaceutical medications. Maybe you're taking a pharmaceutical medication that has a stimulating effect on your HPA axis that is going to trigger stress response and can cause chronic anxiety. Illness, especially cardiovascular disease. If you're not getting the proper amount of oxygen intake, your homeostasis will be thrown off. And a lot of people with cardiovascular issues, anxiety is very closely connected with that. And just to also emphasize the idea of illness is you can get anxiety from just having an illness. I have chronic pelvic pain and digestive issues, and it's something that affects my everyday life. So I have a lot of anxiety around, is this food going to cause my pain? So this is an example of how chronic illness can also cause anxiety. But a common school of thought that is not on this list is chemical imbalance. So symptoms of mood and anxiety disorders are thought to result in part from disruption in the balance of activity in the emotional centers of the brain. And this is according to the National Institute of Health. And I'm just going to switch back one more time because my anxiety is kicking in. And yes, we have someone else that's waiting to join. Welcome, Anne. You are muted until the end for when I field questions. I'm just going to switch back here. So there's a school of thought that there's a chemical imbalance in our brain because we have so many different biological processes that are involved in our stress response, in our body's response to emotion, especially fear. So let's take a look at some of the biological processes that are involved in processing emotion. You're going to notice we have a few of them here. So the limbic system, which will find the fear center, the amygdala. Endocrine system, which will find our adrenals that dump norepinephrine and epinephrine, and then later cortisol into our bloodstream. We've got the autonomic nervous system made up of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. We're going to talk about the HPA axis today and how that triggers our stress response and how we can naturally tap into that HPA axis, which stands for the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. We're going to talk about this today, as well as the endocannabinoid system and how the HPA axis and EC are actually tied together. And when you address your endocannabinoid system, you're actually addressing the HPA axis. So these are some of the biological processes involved when we are experiencing anxiety and when our brain is processing emotion. So what's very interesting to me about emotion and experiencing anxiety is that I always used to ask, is this me? Is there something wrong with me that I'm constantly feeling uneasy and I'm a fear-based person? There's a lot of chemical reactions going on in your body when we experience fear. Chemicals that function as neurotransmitters in the brain are involved with mood and stress response are the following. Most of us associate our mood with dopamine and serotonin. Serotonin is created in the gut. And these are our neurotransmitters that help us plan. They also motivate us. And then there's norepinephrine and epinephrine, which are our stress hormones that are dumped into the bloodstream when our amygdala pings our HPA axis. And then we have glutamate and GABA. So some of these neurotransmitters will be excitatory. Some of them are going to be inhibitory. GABA is calming. So when our stress response is happening, we have chemicals that can actually calm this down. And glutamate makes GABA. So GABA is actually really important to calm the stress response down. And then you'll see cortisol over here. Cortisol, some of us may be familiar with this. It is a stress hormone that is made after the adrenals dump norepinephrine and epinephrine into our bloodstream. And a little bit of cortisol is great. A little bit of stress is okay. But when it comes to sustained release of cortisol, there can be some problems associated with this, and it can impair our health. We're going to discuss further how our body's delicate balance really affects our mood and how some of these chemicals, if we have too much of them, cannot be good for our health. So let's dive a little bit closer into the stress response and understand what's going on here. So stress is a state in which your body's homeostasis, that delicate balance, is threatened by immediate danger or perceived to be so. So I really want to drive this home. Stress and that feeling of anxiety, it can be actual, as if a tiger is about to attack us. It can be anticipated, or it can actually be imagined. But either way, the same chemical reaction is going on in the body, and it begins in the brain. So we're going to take a look at what centers of the brain is affected by the stress response and where all of this begins. So the limbic system. And specifically, we're going to take a look at the amygdala. This is the fear center. The amygdala is also in charge of memory, decision making, and plays a major role in emotional responses. But the main takeaway is the amygdala is where this all starts. What is the HPA axis and how is it involved in stress response? The HPA axis, or the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, is our central stress response system, made up of the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. When the amygdala senses fear, it starts to send a signal to the HPA axis. This axis is very eloquently intertwined with the central nervous system and the endocrine system. So the HPA axis is that central stress response system. So I want to walk you through what actually happens in the brain when we're experiencing anxiety. And this is according to Harvard Medical School. So when someone confronts an oncoming car or other danger, or maybe that tiger is attacking us, and we see this or hear this, this information is sent to the amygdala, which again is the fear center of the brain that contributes to emotional processing. The amygdala interprets the images and sounds, and when it perceives danger, it's instantly going to ping the hypothalamus. It's going to send a distress signal. Just want to make sure. Okay. So again, when the amygdala interprets these sensations, it's going to send a distress signal to the hypothalamus. And this is all happening in the HPA axis. Just walking through our stress response. The HPA axis relies on a series of hormonal signals to keep the sympathetic nervous system, which we talked about before. It's a part of the autonomic nervous system, and it's the gas pedal. The HPA axis needs these hormones to keep it pressed down. If the brain continues to perceive something as dangerous, the hypothalamus releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, CRH, which travels to the pituitary gland, triggering the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH. I said it. Whew, happy about that. So again, we're walking through the body's stress response. This is the neurobiology of what is happening when we have immediate danger or perceived danger. What happens next is this hormone then travels to the adrenal glands, prompting them to release cortisol. And cortisol is a stress hormone. The body stays revved up, it stays amped up and on high alert, and when this threat passes, cortisol levels fall. Then the parasympathetic nervous system, the brake, it then dampens the stress response, and then we are allowed to cool down. Some of us that have chronic anxiety, this dampening cool down period does not come easy. We also know that too much cortisol can be linked to weight gain, it can be linked to skin issues, and it disrupts the body's ability to fight inflammation. So say you're someone that has extreme digestive issues. I met this person. Say you're someone that has extreme digestive issues and you're undergoing stress, your body's ability to fight inflammation will be compromised. So cortisol, a little bit of cortisol is okay. Too much cortisol at a sustained rate can impair health. And how do we know how much cortisol we have in our body, and are we high or are we low? How do we look at this? We're going to talk about that today. But again, we're just walking through the steps of what happens when we are experiencing stress. What is happening in the brain and the body? Something I just want to talk to you really quick. If you are someone that does have chronic stress, you might also have chronic inflammation, because we talked about how these stress hormones can affect our body's ability to fight inflammation. A product that I really like, and I actually have it right next to me, is Theracurmin HP. It's by a nutraceutical company that we carry in the office called Integrative Therapeutics. So Awesome company. They create supplements for GI health, to balance your hormones, for cardiovascular, cognitive health. This recommended dosage is 2 capsules, which will have 600 milligrams of curcumin, which we know is from turmeric, and it's highly anti-inflammatory. So if you are someone that has stress and inflammation issues, whether that's arthritis or anxiety, this is a great product. And this is something we carry in the office. I'm going to talk about the samples that I can give out later, and we do have samples of theracurmin as well. So a lot of this information I am sourcing from Dr. Carrie Jones. She is an expert on the Dutch test, hormone testing. So the Dutch test is by a company called Precision Analytical. And this is a test, it's a urine test that can give you a great snapshot of your adrenals and sex hormones. So Dr. Carrie Jones is a naturopathic doctor. She's internationally known, and she also serves as a medical director for 2 large integrative clinics in Portland. And I did take a little clip of her talking about the stress response and really breaking it down, because she does a really good job. So I'm going to play that right now. I just want to make sure we have no one else waiting. Nope. Okay. So let's take a listen on what Dr. Carrie Jones has to say about the stress response.
It's emotional based.
Sorry.
So it's a little reminder when it comes to the HPA axis, if the ship is sinking in your life, or you're running from a tiger in your life, then your homeostasis or your allostasis is actually threatened or perceived to be so. It's emotional based, of course, physical based, psychological based, environmental, chemical stressors. But please remember that stress is actual, anticipated, or imagined. It doesn't matter. Your HPA axis reacts the exact same way. So if you are actually having stress, if you're actually exposed to something, if you actually ate something you shouldn't have, then your HPA axis kicks off. But if you're the type of person, or the patient who is talking to you is the type of person that is anticipatory, they're a worst case scenario type of person, they imagine the worst case scenario type of person, they make mountains out of molehills, then you're going to get the exact same reaction in the HPA axis. So our anticipated and our imagined react the exact same. The cascade happens as if there's an actual stress happened. So this is really important for those chronic panic, chronic anxiety people, because they sort of get stuck in this anticipated imagined stress, and it's cumulative over time. And we're going to get there, but we're going to talk about how this affects the amygdala in your brain and how that's a big one causing a lot of these symptoms. So the problem is you get this stress response, and instead of going to your neocortex for logical processing, right? Instead, you get complete freak out because the hypothalamus goes to the pituitary, goes to the adrenals, and you release cortisol, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. And we know this in our life because how many of you have had a stressful event happen that maybe wasn't so stressful, or maybe thinking back on it, you're like, man, why did I freak out? That wasn't really as stressful as it should have been, or as I thought it was going to be. And it's because the body doesn't go to the neocortex for logical processing, which in the grand scheme of survival is a good thing, right? If a stressful situation is happening, if we're literally running from the tiger, if the ship is literally sinking, then we don't want to stop and overprocess it, which is what many of us will do. The neocortex will start to logically think our way through it or overthink our way through it, and it's too late, like the tiger has eaten us because we've decided to stop and think about it too much. So on the one hand, it's good, but on the other hand, we get this chronic freak out that can happen. And so if you just need a little reminder on the fight or flight response, you get the initiation of the response. Basically what happens is everything, all the sensory nerves comes up to your brain. Your hypothalamus makes the call, and it sends out CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone or releasing factor, depending on where you live in the world and what you're reading. And then that tells the pituitary gland to release ACTH into the bloodstream. The adrenals make cortisol. It takes about 10 minutes-ish to make cortisol. So cortisol is not the immediate thing that gets released. What gets released immediately is your norepinephrine norepinephrine and epinephrine, that's dumped immediately because norepi and epi are stored in vesicles. And as soon as they get this signal, they're just like, I'm out, like out in the system. And that's what helps. And the follow-up is cortisol several minutes later. So the simplified stress response is this. Everything, all the arrows, all the red arrows coming right up to the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus makes CRH. The anterior pituitary makes ACTH, and you get norepinephrine and epinephrine right away, and you get cortisol several minutes later. Now, when it comes to norepinephrine and epinephrine, this is one of my absolute most favorite quotes in all of research. So chronic stress, if continued for a long time, can damage many parts of the body. A significant part of the damage is due to the effects of sustained norepinephrine release because of norepinephrine's general function of directing resources away from maintenance, regeneration, reproduction, and towards systems that are required for active movement. Y'all, how many of your patients can't maintain, can't regenerate, and have problems with reproduction? All of them, right? Like all of them do. And how many of them have a significant amount of stress going on? All of them. And you can see as you keep reading the quote, the consequences include sleeplessness, loss of libido, GI problems, impaired disease resistance, lower rate of injury healing, depression, increased vulnerability to addiction. So norepinephrine is no joke. We have to take it seriously.
I highly recommend checking out Dr. Carrie Jones' full YouTube video on stress. Oops, I actually went too far.
Norepinephrine is no joke.
Sorry about that. I highly recommend checking out this YouTube video, which again, I will make sure everyone has access to because it's a really great listen and she is packed with information. So chronic stress, how does it become chronic? And just like Dr. Carey said, when it becomes chronic, it can impair our health. So brain plasticity or neuroplasticity is the ability of the nervous system to change. The brain creates a path that reverts directly to your stress response. So just how we can form habits, our brain sort of does this on its own. Think of it as when you're constantly in this chronic anxiety loop, your brain sort of just goes right to the adrenals and creates a pathway in your brain. So again, how does it become chronic? Brain plasticity or neuroplasticity. And just to recap, on the amygdala, our center of fear is constantly stimulated by stress hormones and these neurotransmitters, norepinephrine and other chemicals. Brain plasticity actually increases. So when we're stuck in this chronic anxiety loop, this brain plasticity, this chronic pattern making in our brain increases and anxiety increases. But what can we do about that? What can we do about chronic anxiety, which a lot of you are here today present to learn more about natural ways. And again, when stress occurs, the brain will run straight to the HPA axis and adrenals instead of logical thinking. So what are the current treatments for anxiety? Benzodiazepines, SSRIs, beta blockers, which I think is a pretty interesting way to tackle anxiety. Certain people that have anxiety have very high blood pressure and high heart rate. So beta blockers are given to slow that heart rate down. And also counseling, which I'm very supportive of. But these are some of the common conventional treatments that we see today. What if you're looking for more of a natural alternative? Does that exist? And yes, it does. And we're going to dive into that. And the way that we can do that is with functional medicine. So we just touched a little bit on conventional medicine, which is Western medicine. And there has been a lot of advances in surgery, and not to say that pharmaceuticals are, I'm not completely bashing them, but they can be helpful, but it doesn't always need to be the first resort. Functional medicine is the understanding, prevention, and management of disease. It's getting to the root cause of the disease. And stress is a perfect example of this. Instead of maybe putting a Band-Aid over your stress by taking a pharmaceutical medication, we should really look inside the body and look at these systems to see what's going on and what we are deficient in. And we're going to talk about that in the next couple slides. And functional medicine, I sort of see it as a blend between conventional medicine. It also employs integrative and holistic aspects. So just to give you a review of what functional medicine is, because we are going to talk about how functional medicine can help with anxiety. And yes, there is a more natural alternative. Cannabis, plants, and functional medicine. And let's dive right into this. So how can we address stress? By looking at the endocannabinoid system. So what is the endocannabinoid system and how does it affect stress response? The endocannabinoid system plays a major role in the human body. It's a system of biological processes that's made up of 3 components. And what's interesting is that the ECS, it's found in all humans and animals and anything that contains a vertebrae. It controls and modulates mood, memory, sleep, temperature, fertility, our hormones, our appetite. So again, it plays a major role in the body. 3 components of the ECS. We're looking at cannabinoid receptors, endocannabinoids or endogenous cannabinoids that are created within the body, and these enzymes that break these endocannabinoids down, which we're going to really touch base on as we continue. You'll notice that the CB1 and the CB2 receptors, 2 prominent cannabinoid G-coupled fatty lipid ligand receptors that are found throughout the body. The CB1, cannabinoid 1 receptor, is found mostly in the brain and the spine. This is why THC has such a special relationship with the central nervous system, why we have so many patients that have chronic neuropathy and horrible nerve pain that receive effective relief from THC. And because this receptor is found throughout the central nervous system, and we know that THC engages this the most. The CB1 receptor is also found is expressed throughout other areas of the body, especially the gastrointestinal tract and the ovaries. So if you are someone that has digestive issues, again, cannabis can be very helpful for that. And then we have the CB2 receptor, cannabinoid 2 receptor, which is associated with the immune system, and it is found in the liver and bone marrow. So these receptors are expressed all throughout the body, on the surface of cells and tissues, on organs. This is pretty fascinating. So we talked about how the ECS is comprised of those receptors, the endocannabinoids, as well as the enzymes that break them down. Your ECS tone dictates your body's homeostasis and how well all of these different chemicals are working together. And our body strives to obtain that delicate balance, that homeostasis. So let's talk a little bit more about endogenous cannabinoids or endocannabinoids. A lot of us who hear the term cannabinoid, they associate the flower, the plant, your strains in the medical marijuana program. So your body actually can produce the same substances that are created in cannabis plants. They're called endocannabinoids. An example of this is anandamide. Oop, gotta go back for a second. An example of this is anandamide, and it's broken down by the enzyme FAAH, and we're going to come back to this because this is extremely important in how cannabis helps reduce anxiety and how tapping into the ECS in turn helps you tap into your HPA axis. And another endocannabinoid that is found in the ECS is 2-AG and 2-arachidonyl glycerol, aka 2-AG. Yes, I said it. So these are endocannabinoids that are created within the body. Anandamide, which we're going to talk a little bit further about, is the bliss molecule. This is a neurotransmitter that is produced in the brain, and it is responsible for motivation. It's that same feeling that we get when we go on a long run and we experience that runner's high. It's important to note that anandamide is important endocannabinoid because it interacts with the body similarly to THC. So when we supplement with THC, maybe we are patients in the medical marijuana program, THC or CBD, we're boosting our anandamide levels, and it helps enhance our mood, and it helps our body maintain homeostasis. And it's interesting because if you look at THC and anandamide, they have a similar chemical structure. So THC is a phytocannabinoid produced in plants. Anandamide is an endocannabinoid produced in our brain. And again, the whole point is to achieve homeostasis. So where is anandamide derived from? You can find arachidonic acid in different nutritional oils, safflower, evening primrose, which is great for hormone imbalance. Some of us use grapeseed oil in our skincare routine. It's great for hydration. Sunflower oil, as well as hemp seed oil. So if you want to run full circle, if you're a medical marijuana patient, you're also using, CBD from hemp extract. You can also pick up hemp seed oil at Whole Foods or any of your other local natural markets because it can help boost our anandamide production, and it's also packed with omega-3 and 6, those essential fatty acids that our brain needs. So I highly recommend supplementing with some of these nutritional oils. And this is just to drive home the chemical structure of THC and anandamide. They are similar. And again, these are cannabinoids that are produced in the body. These are cannabinoids that are produced in plants. And they bind to the receptor cells expressed throughout our body. And I apologize if I'm either going too fast or too slow. Again, everyone's going to have access to this content. I'll be posting it to YouTube with all of the sources in the description, and I'll be emailing that out to everyone. And I'll be fielding questions at the end where I can unmute people. Alrighty, so let's continue on. Endocannabinoid receptors. So going back to one of the components of the endocannabinoid system, these receptors, again, are found throughout the body. When we talked about this, CB1 is found in the brain, the spine, lungs, the vascular system, our muscles, our GI tract, and our reproductive organs. CB2, tonsils, bones, skin, immune system. Which means that cannabinoids can be, because these receptors are associated with our immune system, they can act as immunomodulators and help regulate our immune system when we supplement with phytocannabinoids. The endocannabinoid system is going to regulate 5 critical areas of your body, which sort of sums up the past couple slides. Central nervous system, the brain, the intestinal tract, the immune system, and the peripheral nervous system. So the main takeaway from this is that it plays a major role in your body. Now let's take a look at some plant-derived cannabinoids. So phytocannabinoids. In New Jersey, if you are interested, or maybe you're already a medical marijuana patient, you're going to notice on your your labels for your medicine, whether you're getting the flower or maybe you're getting some lozenges, you're going to notice that the state of New Jersey tests for 4 different cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are the medicine of the cannabis plant. We'll see THC, CBD, CBG, and CBN. We're not going to talk too much about THC today. THC is very helpful with pain. It's the most abundant cannabinoid found in the body, and it's the only cannabinoid that produces a euphoric effect. It produces a high, and it's very helpful for nausea, vomiting, and it can uplift your mood. I do want to highlight here that THC can be helpful for anxiety. It can have anti-anxiety and antidepressant effects, but it's important to microdose with THC if you're starting out to the program. Cannabis is a highly individualized therapy. I'm not saying that THC doesn't work for anyone for anxiety. It's just that there are a lot of cases where when you're using strains that are higher in THC, it can cause a little bit too much stimulation. But again, cannabis affects people differently. If you are interested in joining the medical marijuana program, it might be beneficial to microdose with THC. CBD, which we are going to spend more time on. We will find CBD dominant strains in the medical marijuana program, like Cannatonic, which is a popular strain available at Breakwater Dispensary in Cranberry, New Jersey. This one, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, is a perfect example of a strain that is CBD dominant. It's going to have around 20% CBD, but then may have 10% THC. So there's a nice balance there for those of us that have pain, but we also have anxiety. And then of course, there's going to be CBD that's derived from hemp, where we will have virtually no THC in there. And we'll talk about that too. But CBD might have an even not all of the benefits are up here, but CBD might even have a longer list of medicinal benefits than THC. CBD is highly neuroprotective and it's highly anti-inflammatory. Not only does it help with anxiety, but it can help with pain as well. So if you're someone that's experienced anxiety and maybe inflammation in the gut, maybe you have IBS or maybe you have inflammation, like arthritis, CBD can be very helpful. Not going to talk too much about CBG. This is really geared towards people that have migraine headaches. It can help with people that have digestive issues, can promote gastric motility, and can help stop muscle spasms. CBG is available in strains in the medical marijuana program. An example of this would be Girl Scout cookies, which is available at Garden State Dispensary. That's packed with CBG. Or Moonshine Haze, which is a popular strain at Breakwater, is another CBG-packed cannabinoid strain. And then the final cannabinoid, CBN, this is a sleep aid. It is the sleepy cannabinoid, and it actually occurs when THC is exposed to air. So if your flower gets a little bit dried out, you don't have to worry that it's not going to be effective. It's actually just going to be more sedative. So CBN is that sleep molecule. I just want to point out that there's over 100 different cannabinoids, but the state of New Jersey, the medical marijuana program, is going to test for 4 of them. And this differs by state depending on where you're at. And hopefully in the future, testing will expand and we're going to see other cannabinoids other than just these 4. So what is cannabidiol, CBD, and how does it affect the HPA axis? I know we are inundated with CBD information on the news and on social media and in our health food stores. So what's the deal with CBD and how does it help us regulate our endocannabinoid system as well as tap into our HPA axis, that stress response center that we talked about earlier? So CBD is a phytocannabinoid. It's found in cannabis plants. And it doesn't produce euphoric effects. We touched base on this. It doesn't interact with the same way, it doesn't interact with your body the same way that THC does. It's going to interact in other ways. But what it can do is it can reduce anxiety by enhancing mood. It gives a sense of overall well-being, and it relaxes the body. It's really important to be aware of the quality of the CBD that you're buying, because we are being saturated with so many different CBD products. I recommend that if you are going to purchase a CBD product, make sure that they provide lab reports. Hemp, which we're going to see a lot of hemp-derived CBD. Some of us might even take it. Hemp is a bioaccumulator. Well, cannabis is a bioaccumulator. When we plant it in the ground, it's going to suck up everything. So we want to make sure that these companies are proving that they are testing for toxins, for metals, lead. And we also want to make sure that they are showing the cannabinoid profile. How much CBD is truly in my CBD product? The way that we can confirm that is through the batch reports, and these companies should be able to easily provide that to you. So again, batch reports, super important. Also the quality of the farmers, the people that are growing the crop. We want to make sure that they're using clean, sustainable processes. And again, CBD can be derived from hemp, or it can be derived from medical marijuana. We will see CBD dominant strains at the dispensary that are still going to have THC, which is really helpful for a lot of people that have pain. So let us move on here. And we're going to talk about supplementing with CBD and how CBD helps address stress and the HPA axis. So how does addressing the endocannabinoid system and the HPA axis help reduce stress? So what physiologically is going on? And I'm someone that's very much interested in what's going on in my brain when I'm taking these things. So this is a huge takeaway from this session here. So a lot of people say, how does CBD help with anxiety? This is it. CBD inhibits the production of fatty acid amide hydrolase. So when we go back to our fear center, to the amygdala, when it perceives fear and it starts to ping the HPA axis, it sends those distress signals. During this process, our body is increasing the production of FAAH, fatty acid amide hydrolase. And what that does is it breaks down anandamide. And anandamide is that happy neurotransmitter bliss molecule that keeps us motivated. It helps regulate our dopamine and serotonin levels, and it keeps us less anxious. So simply put, we supplement with CBD. It's going to stop the production or inhibit. It's going to slow down the production of FAAH, which means we're going to have more anandamide, that happy bliss molecule in the body. But what's important is dosing. And dosing is going to be different based on the person. So it's really important to seek assistance from a health coach or for somebody that specializes in plant-based medicine. Because a huge problem that I notice with people that come, to the medical marijuana program, they say, I've used CBD before and it didn't really help with anxiety, didn't help with pain. And a lot of the times they're not getting the proper dosage. And also a major idea that I fully believe is the idea of the entourage effect. So is our CBD products full spectrum, or is it an isolate? The entourage effect states that THC and CBD, they actually work better when they're found in the body together. So if we're someone that's never used THC before, not even microdosing, and we're taking an isolate of CBD, it might not necessarily manifest the desired effects that we're looking for. And then I find that people will start the medical marijuana program, get a little bit of THC in their system, and they're finding CBD is very effective. So again, cannabis individualized therapy. Some people really rely on CBD for anti-anxiety because of this, and others swear by THC. So CBD, you can address the HPA axis by supplementing with CBD, which will affect this production of FAAH, which again leads to more anandamide in the brain. Now, how else can you address and support the HPA axis? And how do you even know, how do I know I have issues? what's going on with my stress hormones? What do my cortisol levels look like? What's my GABA look like? What are my, am I creating enough vitamin B6 to create GABA? How do I know this? And what you can do is functional medicine testing. There are tools in our functional medicine toolbox we can use to help address the HPA axis, and we're going to dive into that now. Some of us may be familiar with some of these tools. Some of us may have had this testing before. So functional medicine lab testing is used to address the adrenals and micronutrients. Some of the tests that Princeton Integrative Health most commonly uses is the Dutch test by Precision Analytical. Dr. Carrie Jones, who gave us that wonderful explanation of the stress response and what's going on with the HPA axis and how chronic stress can damage health. She's an expert on this company's panel. And the Dutch test is a hormone test that we're going to talk about. Organic acid testing, this is a huge one. This can help us detect vitamin deficiencies. And then we also use Vibrant Labs. So these tests are in our toolbox to figure out what's going on with our body and our neurotransmitters, and is everything in balance? So let's dive a little bit deeper into this testing. I've personally taken the Dutch test, very, very easy at-home tests. And by the way, these are all take-home tests that you would use. So the organic acid test, the oat test, the reason why I love this one is because it gives you a really good snapshot, a full picture of your overall health. You're going to look at your vitamin and mineral deficiencies, your amino acid deficiencies, oxidative damage, neurotransmitter production. So this is a big picture that this test is providing. And an example of how this test can really help you determine, how you can tackle stress is, say you have a B6 deficiency, which you can find, you can determine through this oat test. You can't make GABA properly. And we talked about how GABA earlier is a neurotransmitter that helps calm us down. And it's made from glutamate. So all those neurotransmitters that are involved in emotional processing and processing stress. Some of them are going to be excitatory. Some of them are going to be inhibitory and will calm us. GABA is an example of this. Some people take GABA supplements because if you are someone that's chronically stressed, you might notice, and we hear this from patients a lot, is that I used to be able to deal with stress so much easier. Why is it that, something that, was stressful, it's taking me all day to get over? And it's because you could be deficient in a lot of these neurotransmitters that can calm our stress response down. So being deficient in B6 is an example of this, and how we can find out our deficiencies through the organic acid test. Dr. Leonti or one of our other functional medicine practitioners can recommend this to you. You can call our office to learn more about this. So another tool in our toolbox that we touched base on is the Dutch test and our stress hormones, which are very important to stress response. There's a strong relation between our hormones and stress that we talked about. Norepinephrine and epinephrine, these are damaging when they are released at a sustained rate, can affect our weight, it can affect our cardiovascular health, our blood pressure. The Dutch test, it's a take-home urine test. It's super easy, it's comprehensive, and it evaluates your adrenal and reproductive hormones. So I took the Dutch test a few times, and Dr. Vinny noticed that my cortisol was through the roof. So there are supplements that are plant-based that we can take that can actually help reduce our cortisol. And when I was able to reduce my cortisol, I actually was able to shed 40 pounds. So not just the cortisol is, our body is a systems-based platform, but addressing our stress hormones is just one of the ways that we can attack chronic illness. And my cortisol levels were through the roof. So the Dutch test is how we can get an idea of our cortisone and cortisol levels, estrogen metabolites, melatonin, our free cortisol pattern. And another aspect I want to touch base on here is how hormones are so directly tied to our emotional health is, for estrogen. So Estrogen is a tricky one. We have too little of it, it can reduce our serotonin. We have too much of it, it affects our serotonin production. So this just is a prime example of this delicate balance that our body has. So we can get an idea of what our estrogen looks like. And elevated estrogen can cause a lot of issues with women, which that will be a whole other discussion that we'll talk about. I also want to highlight here that serotonin is made in the gut. So if you're someone that has gut issues, you might have problems with your serotonin production. Gut health is another way that you can address the HPA axis, and that is a whole other discussion in itself, which we'll have another virtual event for. But just something to think about. Gut health is extremely important. We know that there's a connection that exists between the brain and the gut, and it's called the gut-brain axis. I recommend researching the vagus nerve, vagal tone, which dictates our gut health. So these are all ideas that just drive home the fact that so many different systems in our body play a role in our stress and how we need to look at each of them individually. And that's what's great about functional medicine, because they do that. So this is another tool in our toolkit to address our stress response and to address the HPA axis. How do we get these labs in motion? We can schedule labs through our practitioners. Just give us our office a call, or if you have more questions about these labs, such as, does my insurance cover this? How do I administer this at home? We can give you more information. And we're happy to do so. All right, so we talked about the endocannabinoid system, the HPA axis, supplementing with CBD so that we can tap into our ECS. But let's talk about other plants other than cannabis. And utilizing other plants actually have synergistic qualities and can enhance the effectiveness of cannabis. First, we're going to take a look at adaptogens. So I'm just going to season back in. We're going to take a look at adaptogenic herbs. I am so sorry about that. So let's take a look at adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogens are natural compounds that have three criteria. So in order to be an adaptogen, you have to be able to reduce mental and physical stress, you have to be non-addictive, and you have to be able to restore the body's balance. What's super interesting about adaptogens is that back during World War II, the Russian military researchers used these plants, these herbs, to study the effects of stress reduction on the CNS, the central nervous system, during combat. They needed a more natural way to keep soldiers alert and to reduce stress that was happening. So there's a lot of studies, and it's interesting to look up that factoid. I can send this chart to anyone that needs it if you'd like it outside of the video. We're going to notice some popular adaptogenic plants here. Some of them we're going to talk about today, but it would be really hard to cover all of them. I want to talk about some of the powerhouses. So we're going to touch base on ashwagandha. We won't touch base on holy basil, but this is a popular adaptogenic herb. And some of us might use some of these, like ginseng, like lemon, lemongrass, maca root, golden root. So these are all adaptogenic herbs. Now, adaptogens can help reduce stress by increasing the state of nonspecific resistance and decreasing sensitivity to stressors, which results in stress protection and a prolonged phase of resistance. So adaptogens, what's great about them is that they have an anti-fatigue effect, and they also perk you up, but they also sort of have this sedative effect as well. So adaptogens are great because they're not going to make you feel couch locked. It's going to reduce anxiety without making you overly tired. Let's talk about some specific adaptogens. There's a ton of studies on these that have been documented in both humans and animals, and those studies will be highlighted in the list of sources on the YouTube video that I send everyone. All right, let's skip this slide because this is a repeat. So let's talk about adaptogenic herbs. Ashwagandha, this is my favorite one. And this is found in a product called Cortisol Manager. Not sure if you can see this, but this is one of my miracle supplements. Ashwagandha has been used in traditional medicine. It's been used for thousands of years, since 6000 BC, and commonly in Ayurvedic medicine. But it's been used across many different countries and cultures. And the reason why it's so great is because it reduces stress and it addresses the HPA axis. There's a study that was conducted in rats. They were given a swimming stress test, and researchers saw that ashwagandha had the ability to reduce adrenal cortisol. And remember, going back to cortisol, that stress hormone, it can be linked to weight gain. It can be linked to cardiovascular issues, inflammation, autoimmune issues. A little bit of cortisol is okay, but sustained chronic cortisol release is not good. So ashwagandha, this is a great plant that can help reduce this. And the way it does this is it addresses the adrenals. All right, ashwagandha. I also want to highlight that when you use ashwagandha with cannabis, whether you're using it with a THC dominant strain or CBD dominant strain, there's synergistic qualities here. Ashwagandha can help enhance the effects of your cannabis medication. So not even just for stress reduction. If you're looking for something to maximize pain relief or maximize anti-anxiety effects, ashwagandha is great. And ashwagandha is found in a lot of supplements that we are going to discuss. So Cortisol Manager, which I just brought up a couple moments ago. So Cortisol Manager is the stress hormone stabilizer. It has a stress reducing blend of ashwagandha. This is going to be the prominent ingredient in here. L-theanine, which is an amino acid that helps us produce GABA. And we're going to see magnolia extract in here, which is a great stress reducer. And you're going to see magnolia, as well as some of these other ingredients, in a lot of stress reducing supplements. Integrative Therapeutics, just want to go back here for a second. Integrative Therapeutics is a nutraceutical line that has an HPA axis optimization line. So if you go onto their website, or you can even call us to ask, they have a whole line that's dedicated to addressing the adrenals, addressing cortisol, addressing norepinephrine. If you are someone that wants just straight ashwagandha, I definitely recommend Cytoplan, and the price point on this is great. These supplements are under $20. I think this ashwagandha is like $6.99, but 500 milligrams. What I love about PIH is that Dr. Leonti and Jenna, they vet all of our supplements. They're very, very strict with this. What do they provide? Lab reports, the sourcing, how is it extracted? And if you are looking for just straight ashwagandha, this is a great product. Bacopa minari is also something that I take on a daily basis, and it helps with memory, and it helps boost cognitive function. And a lot of these plants and herbs, there's studies backed up to support their medicinal benefits on humans and animals. And again, I'm going to send these, my sources, to everyone. Let's look at rhodiola. So this is another adaptogenic plant that you're going to find as you do your research on adaptogenic herbs. This reduces stress by supporting the HPA axis, and it's known to provide energy, stamina, and strength. strength. So a study that highlights this, 2 review articles published in 2012. There were 15 studies, and they looked at 500, the mental performance of 575 people. Both reviews found that evidence supported that rhodiola may enhance physical performance and ease mental fatigue. Because when we think about being anxious, or maybe we have a panic attack, extremely stressful day that has taken us a long time to calm down from, we'll notice that our adrenals have depleted our energy. So these adaptogenic herbs can enhance our energy and can fight mental fatigue that's caused by stress. So this is another powerful adaptogenic herb. And if you would like suggestions on supplements that PIH recommends, please contact our office so that we can put you in touch with a health coach. All right. All right, so this is one of my personal favorites. Dr. Vinny, as well as Jenna, loves reishi mushroom, but this is sort of a trick little question that would appear on a pop quiz, because although reishi is an adaptogen, it's not considered a plant, it's a fungus. So reishi mushroom is a part of these adaptogenic mushrooms that we're starting to see a lot in the news and media, as well as in our health food stores and supplements, just as popular as CBD right now. So reishi mushroom has a long history of use for promoting longevity, and most popularly in Asian cultures, as well as other cultures throughout the world. And it supports our adrenals by supporting our liver so that it can break down stress hormones. It also helps us support sleep, which sleep is so important. It can be the root cause to a lot of illness. So the fact that reishi can support our sleep, which in turn will help our body regenerate, is a great thing. Reishi mushroom is found in, oh, there's someone else. It's just admitting someone else. You can supplement with reishi mushroom in a bunch of different ways. PIH has a coffee that we love and recommend. It is by a brand called Organo, and it contains this reishi mushroom compound. If you are someone that has anxiety and you're not, and you do like coffee, like me, every time I have anxiety, I kick myself in the butt, or every time I try coffee, I kick myself in the butt, because I know caffeine sets off my anxiety, but I still love it. So that's why I like reishi mushroom based coffee, because it doesn't give you the jitters. It can actually have the ability to balance your stomach's pH. So if you are someone that has digestive issues and coffee can irritate your stomach, reishi mushroom infused coffee is great. So this is another example of an adaptogenic natural compound that we can use. So reishi mushroom is going to support the adrenals, and it's going to support the liver break down these stress hormones that are produced when we experience anxiety. And for those of us that may have missed this point, a lot of these stress hormones, when they are constantly being released, they can cause damage overall to your health. I think I might have overestimated the length of time for these slides. I know some people like to take notes, so I know these long pauses are gonna be a little awkward, but we'll give people time to take some notes. So let's talk about terpenes. So we talked about what happens to our body when we experience stress. The amygdala pings the HPA axis, which then sends the signal to the adrenals to dump those stress hormones into our blood, which when we do this chronically, it can impair our health. We talked about how we can address this naturally by addressing the HPA axis with plants that can reduce stress, like adaptogens, as well as anti-inflammatory plants. We talked about supplementing with cannabinoids, which can help balance out our endocannabinoid system. We stressed using CBD, THC can be helpful too, but there is a pattern that shows that you might want to microdose with THC when you are anxious. But let's move on to another type of compound found in plants that can be helpful for anxiety, and that's going to be terpenes. So when we go to breakwater, or say we are medical marijuana patients, say we do go to the dispensary and we go to Breakwater, or we go to Curaleaf, one of our favorite dispensaries, and we open up our medicine container and we smell the cannabis strain grape ape, or maybe we smell lemon G, and we get a strong whiff of that lemon flavor and odor. That's what the terpenes are. Terpenes they're aromatic compounds. They're essential oils of cannabis plants. They're commonly found in cannabis plants. But they're not just unique to cannabis. They're found in all herbs, fruits, and vegetables. Think of terpenes kind of like the steering wheel. Cannabinoids like THC and CBD are going to be the car, and the terpenes are the steering wheel. And I'm so sorry. I'm actually just going to pause this for 1 second. I just need to plug in my computer. I'm so sorry, everyone. Just one moment. All right, I have returned. I am sorry about that, everyone. All right, so sorry about that. I was totally overestimating my Mac's ability to stay charged for an hour. So terpenes, they are the essential oils of cannabis plants, and they're found in high concentrations in the strains in our medical marijuana program in New Jersey as well as Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, New Jersey does not test for terpenes. We can find out about them on leafly.com, which is a great resource for cannabis for people that are interested in learning more about the medicinal benefits of cannabis. But the main takeaway is that these terpenes, they give cannabis strains their color, their flavor, their scent, and they have medicinal benefits. Let's take a look at some powerful terpenes. I also want to highlight that they have a synergistic effect with cannabinoids. They enhance the benefits of the cannabinoids. So here's some popular terpenes that we'll find in cannabis, as well as other plants and herbs and vegetables: pinene, myrcene, limonene, and linalool. So two terpenes we're going to focus on today is myrcene and linalool. Myrcene is found in a high concentration in strains in New Jersey like grape ape. Myrcene is also found in lemongrass, it's found in sweet basil, and it's found in mangoes. What myrcene does is it maximizes the absorption of cannabinoids because it lessens the blood-brain barrier. Say you're someone that wants to enhance the effects of your THC, maybe you're in a lot of pain, or maybe you have a lot of anxiety and you want to enhance the effects of your CBD and you want it to kick in quicker, you can actually supplement with myrcene. Or maybe you see a strain that is high in myrcene. This means that this is going to be a fast-acting strain. This is going to come in handy for people that have panic attacks because these are unpredictable. We don't always know when we're going to have a panic attack. So myrcene can allow your cannabis strains or CBD products to be fast-acting. Myrcene, again, is found in mangoes, and what some people do is they actually will have a glass of mango juice 40 minutes before they medicate with their THC dominant strain or CBD dominant strain. And again, it allows the cannabinoids to pass the blood-brain barrier faster. So mango juice before you medicate is just a trick to help enhance the absorption. Linalool. This is one of my favorite terpenes. Some of us might be familiar with this terpene. It's found in English lavender, and it's found in actually over 200 different plants, and it's been used for a very long time. So some of us might diffuse lavender in our oil diffusers at home. It's very relaxing. It's known to reduce anxiety while relaxing the muscles. And it's also been used in Ayurvedic medicine for its anti-epileptic properties. So linalool does have an effect on a lot of different biological processes, but the main takeaway is that it calms the body down. There are specifically formulated terpene products for cannabis. So what I mean is if you were to go Google true terpenes, you are a medical marijuana patient, you can actually purchase terpenes that you can cook with cannabis, which will enhance the effects. Or you could do it the old-fashioned way and just purchase mango juice, or maybe there is lavender essential oils capsules that you can take. But the point is that if you incorporate these terpenes from outside sources with your cannabis medication, it can actually maximize the effects so that you can achieve the greatest impact. And another example of this is maybe you're somebody that has a lot of you have a lot of chronic anxiety, and then you crash, and then the next day you're extremely fatigued. There is a popular strain called Lemon G in the medical marijuana program. It is packed with limonene, and limonene is highly energizing. If you have a cup of lemon water 40 minutes before you medicate with your limonene, it's going to enhance those energizing effects. So that's just an example of how you can incorporate terpenes from outside sources to enhance your cannabis medication. But let's move on here. And there's hundreds of different terpenes in these plants. These are just some of the major ones I wanted to point out here. Yeah. All right, and I am looking at the time here. It is 7:47. This is a lot of information. We will be wrapping up shortly. I really appreciate everyone sticking with me here. I hope this is interesting. It was really interesting for me to put together. But here is an example of two strains that are, let's go back. Here's an example of two strains that are found in the New Jersey medical marijuana program. So what you're looking at here is a strain fingerprint. We've got grape ape and cannatonic. So we talked about how there's CBD derived from hemp. Well, there's also CBD dominant strains that have a little THC in here. Cannatonic is available in New Jersey. This is great for anxiety. And we're going to notice some of these cannabinoids in the center, and we'll notice the terpenes on the bottom. So this strain is packed with myrcene. If you are someone that has anxiety, this would be great for you because not only does the CBD help inhibit the production of FAAH, which in turn will allow us to have more anandamide. CBD also boosts anandamide. It has a lot of myrcene in here. So that CBD is going to be able to get into our bloodstream pretty quickly. Little bit of linalool in here to help reduce the muscles, but overall this is a really great strain for anxiety. Where I got this was leafly.com, leafly.com. You can look up a ton of different medical marijuana strains on this website. And it gives you like it pretty much gives you a snapshot of what a cannabis strain, what the genetics look like, and the properties, the cannabinoid profile and the terpene profile. All right. So we talked about how terpenes are found in other herbs, fruits, and vegetables, and these can be administered in other ways to enhance the effects. So an example of this is lavella. This is clinically studied lavender oil. A lot of people love this for sleep and to reduce anxiety. If you take this with your cannatonic, it's going to help enhance the effects of the linalool. And we noticed that there wasn't that much linalool in cannatonic to begin with. So yeah, this is a great product. I have free samples of Lavella that I can send to you. I can gather everyone's information after this. But yeah, great product by Integrative Therapeutics. And again, this is clinically studied lavender oil. This is an example of how we can incorporate this in with our routine, or you could use this alone. So we talked about supplementing with CBD and adaptogens to see maximized effect. A product
You're stressed. I mean, there have been psychological
a
experiments.
product we really like is Body Check, and here's just a quick little snippet of Dr. Vinny talking to Riley. Riley's a former NHL hockey player that founded Body Check. He's based over here in Pennsylvania, so some of you may, I don't know, recognize him if you follow hockey. He is a former Flyer, and he's experienced a lot of brain trauma from hockey, so he's very passionate about cannabis and about plant medicine. And what he did was he actually combined CBD and adaptogenic mushrooms. And I just want you to see a quick little snippet of Dr. Vinny and Riley.
That show when we're stressed, we make poor decisions about eating. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah, so this whole vicious cycle. Yeah. So that's why helping to control stress, doing things to help control stress is so important for people, so important for their mental health, so important for their gut and their microbiome, so important so they can make better choices, you know, in the food that they eat and in most other areas of their life.
Yeah, if you'd like to watch that full interview with Riley and Dr. Vinny, that's on our Facebook page. But yeah, Riley's a really great guy, and he does a lot of appearances on the East Coast. But again, former hockey player that had a lot of brain trauma, had a lot of anxiety and issues after playing hockey. So he developed this product, and it came on our radar because they're very innovative in the sense that they're combining mushrooms and CBD. So Enhance is a product we offer. I can also send everyone who's interested a 15% off online coupon code, which I can collect everyone's email address after this. But let's take a look at some of these benefits here. Enhance strengthens the immune system and improves focus and mental clarity. It also enhances creativity and boosts energy and elevates mood and memory. So the reason why we like this is because there's 10 milligrams of CBD in here, and there's going to be 470 milligrams of an aptogenic mushroom blend. So there are a variety of mushrooms that are going to help with stress and anxiety. And I want to point some of these out to you. This blend is going to have agarikon, chaga, cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, and turkey tail. We talked a little bit about turkey tail. I'm not going to spend too much time on talking about the individual benefits, but I highly recommend looking to Paul Stamets. He's an American mycologist and mushroom expert. I love listening to him talk about this because it gets me so excited about mushrooms. Mushrooms are found in some of our major pharmaceutical medications. Penicillin is derived from mushrooms. So another interesting fact about medicinal mushrooms, highly neuroprotective. We know that lion's mane, interestingly, can help regenerate our brain's myelin sheath. So if you are someone that not only has anxiety, but you're interested in the neuroprotective qualities and enhancing cognitive function, these mushrooms are extremely powerful. So not only does Riley incorporate 10 milligrams of CBD, which can boost our anandamide, help our anxiety, he also incorporates these adaptogenic mushrooms. So not only, I just want to touch base really quick here. So not only is it important to supplement with these natural alternatives like adaptogenic herbs and terpenes and phytocannabinoids to help us address our stress response and reduce these stress hormones, it's diet and lifestyle is super important. So incorporating some of these holistic therapies can be really helpful. PIH offers acupuncture. We also offer lymphatic massage. I'm a huge fan of lymphatic massage. which is offered by Jennifer Ruiz, which can it helps the body rid the interstitial fluid and helps calm overall inflammation, which we know is connected to stress. Music therapy, massage, so all of these different holistic therapies can help. And again, just to drive home, functional medicine isn't just putting a Band-Aid over anxiety, it's finding the root cause, finding what we're deficient in, and it's also about diet and lifestyle changes. So that wraps up this session. I know we did go over time, and I really appreciate everyone sticking with me. I am going to field some questions, but before I do that, if everyone could just remember, if you could just click on my name and message me your email address, because that will give me permission to send you a coupon code on the body check. And I can also, that's telling me that you're interested in the samples. So all the products that I talked about today, I have free samples for. I can send them through the mail. We have Cortisol Manager, we have Theracuramin. So if you're interested in receiving some of these products, send me your email address and I will send them right off to you, or you can call us in the store and we can get your address so that we can mail them out to you. So I am going to unmute everyone, and if someone has a question, you can just go ahead and pop in, and if nobody has questions, I will be wrapping up. All right. All right, everyone. I don't think anyone has any questions. Again, if you are interested in receiving some of these samples, please email me. It's regina@princetonih.com so that I know. If you just send me your address, we can mail them off to you. If you don't feel comfortable sending me your address, call our office. And then Lisa can get these out to you. But I have samples of the Cortisol Manager, the Theracuramin, and the Body Check, the CBD. And if you're interested in joining the medical marijuana program to learn a little bit more about how THC can help with pain and can help manage anxiety, give our office a call. So I am going to wrap up, and I really appreciate everyone sticking with me tonight, and I hope that we have an anxiety-free week, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.